G'day and welcome to this International Student Life presented by Wise Words Media. You're listening to The Bloke Who Walks, and it's the Spotlight series, and this week we're shining a spotlight on your first week in Melbourne. So say g'day to Melbourne. And congratulations, you've made it back. You're enrolled, you've got through your orientation week, and so have we. So a quick intro, about 30 to 40 seconds to let you know what's coming up in this episode. You're going to hear the same intro throughout next week, and we're going to run through every morning for this second, third week for some of you of your first semester back in Australia. We're going to run through what should you be looking at, or what should you be considering in your first week in Melbourne. So you'll see we won't pack too much information on the screen for you. We'll keep it as short and sharp as possible. So we're going to take a short break, enjoy the sights, sounds, summer, orientation week in Melbourne, Australia. Don't go away, we'll be right back. G'day, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening to this International Student Life and watching, of course. We're hoping to put up a podcast. For those of you that like podcasts, it'll just basically be the audio from this episode, basically. So today's topic, study plan. It's a good idea to get organised as soon as possible. Buy your study materials such as textbooks. You've been through orientation week. You should know where your preliminary lectures and tutorials are going to be, their locations. Are they on-site or online? Explore your campus. Take advantage of the campus tours, and if you missed out, just go into your International Student Support team or your Ask Me team. At each university has one. They'd be only too happy to help you. In fact, guess what? They're paid to help you, so make sure you use those resources. Explore your campus, find out from the experts. Check out your international student clubs. Every university has one for almost every country and every language. Explore your campus to see where your classes are, and find, especially have a look for good study spots if you're sharing accommodation, or if you find it difficult to study at home. Check out the library, or check out any of the study spots on your campus. There's plenty of places. We're looking at your first week in Melbourne, some of the things you ought to be paying attention to get organised, get things bedded down, and get off to a great start by being organised. So today's topic is important numbers. It'd be a good idea to keep a record of important numbers such as 000 for emergency services. You can use this number in an emergency only for police, fire or ambulance. If you have any queries regarding your health, often you can call your local pharmacy or your GP, but again, we recommend that you contact your International Student Support team if you're not sure of. Other important numbers, your landlord, your OSHC provider, and your education provider. Save them into your smartphone, write them into your student diary, make sure they're easy to find. You never know when you might need them, and especially in the early days, and make sure that you have a direct number to your international student support team. It's recommended that you get a combination of your favourite foods from home. Okay. Did you know that there's many Indian supermarkets, Korean supermarkets, Japanese supermarkets, Chinese supermarkets? They're springing up all over Melbourne's suburbs over the last couple of years, but also make sure you include some Australian snacks. The perfect mix of old and new, because after all, the reason why you're here is to experience life in Melbourne and a bit of culture and a bit of cuisine. And we'll finish off this episode with a joke that somebody from Canada told me when I was travelling through the Rocky Mountains in the late 90s, and he asked me if I knew the difference between an Australian and a tub of yoghurt. According to this bloke, a tub of yoghurt's got more culture. Get to know your local area, get out and about, get orientated, find out where the tram stops are, where the bus stops are, where the train stations are. Just do a little location scout. G'day, welcome back to this International Student Life. Really appreciate you dropping by to patronise this episode. And in this episode for you, where we're shining the spotlight on your first week in Melbourne, why not do a grocery shop? But, with your groceries, make sure you get down and just have a wander around where you can grab your essentials. Don't go to 7-Eleven. Don't go to the Easy Mart. Go to the good stuff. Get the good stuff from Woolworths and Coles. It's recommended that you get a combination of your favourite foods from home. Did you know that there's many Indian supermarkets, Korean supermarkets, Japanese supermarkets, Chinese supermarkets? They're springing up all over Melbourne's suburbs over the last couple of years, but also make sure you include some Australian snacks. A perfect mix of old and new, because after all, the reason why you're here is to experience life in Melbourne and a bit of culture and a bit of cuisine. And we'll finish off this episode with a joke that somebody from Canada told me when I was travelling through the Rocky Mountains in the late 90s, and he asked me if I knew the difference between an Australian and a tub of yoghurt. According to this bloke, a tub of yoghurt's got more culture. Get to know your local area, get out and about, get orientated, find out where the tram stops are, where the bus stops are, where the train stations are. Just do a little location scout. G'day, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening to this International Student Life and watching, of course. We're hoping to put up a podcast for those of you that like podcasts. It'll just basically be the audio from this episode, basically. It's recommended that you get a combination of your favourite foods from home. Did you know that there's many Indian supermarkets, Korean supermarkets, Japanese supermarkets, Chinese supermarkets? They're springing up all over Melbourne suburbs over the last couple of years, but also make sure you include some Australian snacks. The perfect mix of old and new, because after all, the reason why you're here is to experience life in Melbourne and a bit of culture and a bit of cuisine. And we'll finish off this episode with a joke that somebody from Canada told me when I was travelling through the Rocky Mountains in the late 90s, and he asked me if I knew the difference between an Australian and a tub of yogurt. According to this bloke, a tub of yogurt's got more culture. Get to know your local area, get out and about, get orientated, find out where the tram stops are, where the bus stops are, where the train stations are. Just do a little location scout. G'day, welcome back to this International Student Life. Really appreciate you dropping in to patronise this episode today. And guess what? It's the Spotlight series. We're shining a spotlight on your first week in Melbourne. So say g'day to Melbourne, and today, say g'day to your local bank. Visit a branch in person is always a good idea. Have you set up your bank account yet? Well, maybe you should. It's easy to do, it's digital, but you do need to satisfy certain identity requirements. So we won't be going through all those here today. Go to your international student support team if you've got any questions or any queries or you're not quite sure, but don't be afraid to go straight to the bank yourself, because the staff are there. They're only too happy to help you, and guess what? They're just like your international student support team. They're paid to help you. They're paid to serve you. So don't be afraid to go in and ask questions. The other important thing about having bank accounts, and probably this should be the first item on your list, they're vital for getting paid if you're planning to work in Australia, paying your rent and managing your expenses. And of course, all these things can be done online through your smartphone, your iPhone, your iPad. I don't know what you're going to be using, but you name it, every device can access Australian digital banking services. But also, it doesn't hurt to go into the branch to get a feel for how retail banking services work in Australia. It's another episode of the Spotlight series. We're shining a spotlight on your first week in Melbourne. So let's say g'day to Melbourne. Well, connecting your phone. Well, let's run through some information that we've found out by researching all the information out there in the public domain for international students studying in Melbourne and studying in Australia. You can either buy a new phone from any retail outlet. They're everywhere, in every suburb, every shopping centre, or you could use your current one Especially a good idea for those of you that use iPhones, because they're pretty expensive, aren't they? Well, why not buy a new SIM card and just put it in your current phone? You'll also have the option of getting a prepaid or a monthly plan. Now, I'm not too sure how things work overseas, and also there's prepaid cards, of course. If you don't have a smartphone, hello to you, all the phone providers, your phone services. Now, although this wasn't first topic off the top of our list with this series, no doubt you've already got your phone services sorted out. But in case you haven't, or in case you're finding this information in our series helpful, but you can find out all the information you need about communications and technology through your international student support team. They're the best people to talk to. They're only too happy to help you, and guess what? Yeah, we've said it before, they're paid to help you. Mikey cards, do you know where to buy them? Welcome back. We've missed you all terribly the last couple of years. It's great to see you all coming back. The final topic today, how do you get around Melbourne? Well, if you're a student, you'll need a Mikey card to get around Melbourne on public transport. You can buy Mikey cards from any 7-Eleven store and other selected retailers, as well as some train stations. Now, the best way to do it is actually probably to go to a train station, one of the premium stations or the customer service stations in your local suburb. No doubt you're probably living near your campus. There's many train stations around most of the campuses, even up in Ballarat at Federation University. Now, the other thing, finally, to wrap this series up for this week, check if your institution is signed up to use the iUse Pass program. iUse. You've probably heard of it. Did you know? I bet you already do. You can save 50% on travel as an international student. So there's, even though some people in Melbourne might think that Mikeys are expensive, for students, especially international students, you've got that your student card, and if you have that iUse Pass and you're signed up for that, you'll be saving a lot of money. Did you know Melbourne has the biggest tram track network in the world? Yet we've got more than 250 kilometres of tram tracks lying around the place to get you from any place in the eastern suburbs. You can go from Belgrave if you're riding Puffing Billy, and if you want to get out to the Werribee Zoo, you can get there in the same day to see a rhinoceros in Melbourne. It's London to a brick. I bet that you're going to be using public transport, because even second-hand cars are getting expensive these days in Melbourne, because guess what? We don't manufacture cars anymore, but that's a topic for another day. What we'd like to finish off with today is that Melbourne's public transport, anyone tells you that it's not reliable or not efficient, don't believe them. We use it regularly, we use it daily, every day, to get from north to south. We go across town from east to west, and it's rare that a bus or a tram or a train will let you down. Welcome back to this International Student Life produced by Wise Words Media and Culinary Films. We really appreciate you tuning in to our special Spotlight series. We've been shining a spotlight on your first week in Melbourne. Now, we're an independent service. We're not recommending anyone in particular. We're just letting you know that this is how you purchase cards. We're not paid by any university or any government organisation, so trust us when we tell you that these are some of the best tips we've found out there going around from all the different service organisations and all the different university guides. G'day and welcome to this International Student Life. G'day, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening to this International Student Life and watching, of course. We're hoping to put up a podcast for those of you that like podcasts, or just basically get the audio from this episode, basically. It's recommended that you get a combination of your favourite foods from home. Did you know that there's many Indian supermarkets, Korean supermarkets, Japanese supermarkets, Chinese supermarkets? They're springing up all over Melbourne suburbs over the last couple of years. But also make sure you include some Australian snacks. The perfect mix of old and new, because after all, the reason why you're here is to experience life in Melbourne and a bit of culture and a bit of cuisine. Get to know your local area, get out and about, get orientated, find out where the tram stops are, where the bus stops are, where the train stations are. Just do a little location scout. And we'll finish off this episode with a joke that somebody from Canada told me when I was travelling through the Rocky Mountains in the late 90s, and he asked me if I knew the difference between an Australian and a tub of yoghurt. According to this bloke, a tub of yoghurt's got more culture. And these topics we've put together, we'll be putting out a short episode each day of this week, and then we'll combine them all into one longer episode for the following week. And these are just suggestions that we've been researching through all the material available in the public domain, especially from all the different universities. We are a honest broker of information. We're not paid by any university, any government body. We're purely independent, so you can take it from us. These are some tips that we've picked up in the international student education sector in Melbourne, Australia. So, but again, if you need any help and if you want any really good advice, go to the experts, your international student support team at your university. So that's all we have for you now in this episode. We've somehow managed to fit all the information in the other thing I would like to say, and just remind you, is that this channel is, we are based in Melbourne, Australia. Wise Words Media has a lot of experience in international student education, creating marketing, video and audio content for international students. We also have a lot of experience settling people from overseas into life in Melbourne since 1979. We love showing off Melbourne, and we love helping people get familiar with everything this city has to offer. So make sure that you make the fullest of everything life in Melbourne has to offer through your university. Your international student support team has many activities throughout the year, not just orientation week. There's many things to take advantage of, many clubs and societies. And if you're a student whose language, English, is a second language, don't stop yourself and be anxious about joining in. Get involved, practice your English, find conversation clubs, and we'll wrap it up there. You've been listening to This International Student Life. We're based in Melbourne, Australia, and we want to thank you for joining us in this episode, and make sure that you subscribe, hit the notification bell. You don't have to pay anything. It's free to listen, free to watch, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now. This video contains nil paid promotion. All international student information is compiled from sources available in the public domain. For further information, visit your university website, international student offices, or an international education recruitment agent in your country. This International Student Life is produced by Wise Words Media and CQUniversity Films. We accept no responsibility for any errors or omission of